So I wanted to talk a little bit about Adyar, and of course I have to kind of tailor my thinking to which aspects of it are most meaningful here. First of all, one of the things that I think is important. Adyar is the international headquarters for the Theosophical Society. That's not something that's news to any of you. We all know that. But I do feel that it's an idea that we have to awaken in our minds once again. Because I think to some extent, really around the world, there has been some slippage in terms of our regard for and our thinking about Adyar as the center for this movement within which we participate. That's what it is. And in many ways, we could think of a lot of reasons for perhaps why that might be the case, but I think part of the reason is this thing we were talking about this morning. The idea that to some degree, it's more comfortable because it's more common to think in terms of separation than in terms of unity. It's a deeper stretch to our thinking and to our behavior to move beyond the boundaries that we've become accustomed to functioning within. But one of the things that has developed over time has been this concept that, if I'm in America, there is the Theosophical Society in America, and then there's the international headquarters, which is Adyar. Or there is the Theosophical Society in the Netherlands, and then there is this headquarters, which is in India. So, we begin with this idea of here and there. And sometimes it even gets to the point of us and them. And it's easy thinking, which is why it's so easy to fall into that. And so we have to kind of become aware of that tendency first. Before we can do anything about it, we have to become aware of whether or not it's true that this is something that typifies our mind of the moment. There is an African saying that the disease that is hidden cannot be healed. If we don't see, you go to the doctor and you have a problem, and you, out of pride or out of ignorance, you don't share that problem with the doctor, well, you shouldn't expect the condition to be alleviated, honestly. And with us, we have to continually look deeper and deeper within ourselves and within the things that we're doing. Part of what has fallen to me, this is an unusual moment for the Theosophical Society in the sense that you never have had a condition where you had someone who was the international president and simultaneously the president of a national organization. I don't think it's the best way for things to be. It's just the way it worked out in terms of the United States. Nobody's sitting around waiting for Radha to pass. And she chose the moment at which that occurred. And it occurred right at a moment when, in the United States, the way we have, the formula we have for succession is that if a president becomes incapacitated or unavailable, there is no provision for some special election. The vice president takes on that responsibility. In the case that we had in the United States, maybe it would be different in the Netherlands, but the person who was the vice president was not in a situation where they could pick up, quit their work, move their home, and take on this new responsibility now. And so, this alternate sort of condition is what evolved out of that. So my term as that, in that role, will be ending as when this term ends in 2017. But in the meantime, there are certain very distinct advantages that accrue to the Theosophical Society, broadly speaking. And, you know, this isn't a matter of American pride or anything like that. A fact is this, that within the Theosophical Society worldwide, the Theosophical Society in America has a certain richness of resources that has developed over many years. Resources of various types. But one of the things that has developed is that we have, you know, theosophists who are also professional in their fields, such as archives. You know, our archivist is a trained professional archivist who handles the American archive. We have librarians who are trained, degreed, professional, worked in the world of librarians. We have AV people, audiovisual. We have IT people who are there and have developed abilities, who have been using them for the benefit of the Theosophical Society in America. But the concept is this, that there is in fact one Theosophical Society, one, which has sections in America, in Italy, in Belgium, in South Africa, in Brazil. But there is one organization within which we all function. And that's easy to stand up here and say, but then what do you do about that in terms of utilization of resources? Resources can mean many things. The greatest resource that I tend to focus on is the resource of people. The greatest resource that we have, and the point of this whole thing, is people. And so we have people, though, who are committed to this work, who also have very specific skills. And my point of view, and I'm able to do something about this, being president of the American and the International, is to say, we're going to treat this as if it is one Theosophical Society. So even though you work here in the United States, there is the same sort of work that is greatly needed at the international headquarters. So the first one to go across was our archivist, to work in bringing more life to our archives, which had essentially become it had become closed and it was not getting attention. And so we have remarkable archives. You know, the history of the Theosophical Society, much of it as yet untold, is within those archives. Those of you who have been to Adyar know that it's within the headquarters building, which is right on the Adyar River. The actual archives room, you know, where we're standing, the river is that brick wall. It's that close. Probably you're aware that in 2004, there was a tsunami. And many people in Adyar and all up and down that Adyar River died. They were killed by the flooding and the sudden impact of the rush of water. For whatever reason, our archives, 10 meters away from the water, nothing happened. It was untouched. That's a wonderful thing. But just because you dodge a bullet one time doesn't mean that you know, The Matrix is fine on that movie, The Matrix. You know, he's dodging bullets, but there are other ones that may be coming. So it's not the best location to have the precious historical records of the Theosophical Society housed in a building that is not designed for that. I mean, the humidity in and of itself is something that is continually working against our archives. But, you know, one of the things, again, I have the ITC here in Naarden to thank for this, is that when I came here last year and Michiel and I met for the first time, he has given a time and expertise commitment to the work we're doing there at Adyar. And out of that, we've been able to develop a plan, which he's presented to all of you, which prioritizes what our initial focus can be, because you cannot do everything. You have 100+ buildings on the campus. A lot of them falling down, a lot of them need to fall down. But which do we do first? But out of that plan has also come that we are going to be building a new archives building. And I'm not talking about distant future thinking. I'm talking about 2016. 2015, we're already putting up a structure that is a beautiful structure over our Adyar theater, so that the rain and the ultraviolet from the sun, all those things will be. But you'll see all that. Those of you who come to Adyar after September 26th will see the completed structure. September 25th, they'll just be polishing it. They'll be doing that. But September 26th, it'll be done, it'll be up, you'll see it, and those of you who are there for the convention will be sitting under it. And that'll be something that'll be there for the next 25, 30 years. But this archives building is something that we're going to connect to the library. So the library is well away from the water. It's going to be the type of atmospherically controlled structure that an archives requires, and it's going to be something that is adapted to that climate, necessarily air-conditioned and humidified. And because we're going to be doing it in India, it's going to be done at a price that is quite manageable. So this is one of these early projects that come from this, again, the vision that there is one work that we are doing. How can I tap into that? And where you have someone who has architectural knowledge and the will and desire to make this connection real, what happens? Buildings start popping up. Because other resources are there to support this. It just has to be channeled. And it is always channeled through the result of living, breathing human beings. The society was founded to do the work and to try and have some avenue for the plans and the purposes of these masters of the wisdom, the Mahatmas, so that they can have some way of making an impress on this world. And always that work has been helped or has been hindered by the people that have been available. No people, sorry, no work. Or the work migrates to where the people are. So in order for a certain relevance to be maintained within our organization, we need to be the ones who become available. And so we have to think about how that happens. So this is just one sort of example. These are the things that we're going to be doing at Adyar, and this is in terms just strictly of this function of the archives. So the archivist from the United States came over, and she spent more than a month working to try and bring some life to these archives. Obviously, in a month, you can do a lot of good things, but you cannot do it all. And particularly in a situation where there was so much to do, you can only do a little. But one of the things that was done was that the energy and the idea and the effort toward re-enlivening these archives was stimulated. And out of that, now we have people who are on site who are developing their thinking about archives, who are doing the work every day of cleaning it, of categorizing it. We've started just within the last couple of months. Part of the problem with archival materials is, number one, they have a certain fragility. Like everything else, they're affected by time. More time, less in terms of the integrity of the archival material. So at a certain point, time takes it all. So in order to have these sorts of resources available beyond our lifetime, we have to find a way that suits that. And we have started just within the last couple of months to actually digitize the resources, the materials within our archives. So these are things that are being put into a format that they could be available at the press of a button worldwide. One of the other functions of an archives is that it's probably true here in the Netherlands because it's true everywhere, that the Theosophical Society and the role it has played in the influencing of the spiritual culture worldwide has become a subject of great interest among academics around the world. And there are many people who are looking for the resources to do profound research that could, it will expose different sides of the work of the Theosophical Society. And because it has been people involved, one thing you can be sure of, that everything that is reported, everything that's researched, won't be all good. You know, you may be surprised, but even Blavatsky had a blemish on her cheek. And some of us had more than that. So the anticipation that all news must be good news isn't in keeping with the history of anything. Our families, our organization, nothing. But still, in spite of the personalities that have inhabited our work, a great work has been done. And people want to know about it. People want to describe that. And so our archives, you know, it's wonderful to have this thing and hold it for us. And, you know, if that's what we want to do, I mean, that's pretty much what our approach to archives has been. But to have the work, to have the knowledge about the work that has been done, about the effort that has been undertaken over 140 years by so many different people, many of whom have been quite prominent, and others who have not, but who have been nonetheless quite influential. To have that known, whether somebody likes the story or whether they don't, really doesn't affect the fact that a work has been done and it's being exemplified. So that, I think, is an important element to this archives. So, again, all of that started out with this idea that in the United States, there are certain resources of skills and people that we are transferring to do the work that is needed at Adyar. In this convention period, the two people who are involved with our audiovisual and IT will be coming to Adyar to do the live streaming of the broadcast so that around the world people will see the convention in real time at the moment that it's occurring. Again, just like last year. But they'll be coming from the United States to do that. Last year we had to hire a team from someplace else, from India. So they're going to be coming. Simultaneously, they're going to be working to train people on site in doing that, so that it won't be something where you have to continually bring some foreign-based crew to do all of that. And other people will be coming in that direction. But it shouldn't stop there. You know, the idea that this resource transfer is one way is equally incorrect. I mean, that's that same sort of, you know, colonial superiority mentality we've suffered with for a long time as well. So, just as there are people coming from there to here, we're going to have people coming from Adyar to work in the American section. So that a type of thinking that is not typical to there, to the US, can be brought, and certain sorts of training that is there, that's not typical to India, can be taken back. And so this is something, to me, it just makes sense. And so this is one of the things that I speak about. It's an odd moment, as I say, to have one person occupying these two places. But while it's here, I want to make the most of it. So that's one of the things that we've been involved with that. Hmm? Oh. Okay. By the way, I should say, I stopped because because I want you to stop me. I mean, when the idea pops up to you that needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, stop me, so that I don't pass it by while it's still fresh with you. So that's one of the things. I think I told you, it's been about a year, and the end of April is when I took over as president. So it's been a year and 3 months, 4 months. It seems like it's been a very short time, and at the same time, it seems like it might have been a century ago that this happened. And during that time, a lot of things have happened. Things that you don't necessarily anticipate, but which you end up having to adjust your own thinking and try to be as generous as you can. Since I was with you a year ago, with all of these fresh thoughts and fresh energy, I find myself involved in no less than 4 legal actions, cases in the Indian court. I think it's 4. It may be 5. At a certain point you lose track. But 4 legal actions, one of which was inherited, second of which was inherited but initiated during my time. I mean, we have a case in India that has been in the courts for 35 years that now has my name on it. Thank you. And this isn't thank you, Radha, this is thank you, John Coates. John has been dead and gone since 1980, I think it was. So this case dates back to then. And, quite honestly, I won't be president of the Theosophical Society when it comes out. It's a different system. It's a very different system. So in the past, however, that one is a labor type of case. Another case that is involved is with the Krishnamurti School that has been using the grounds of the Theosophical Society for about the last 30 some odd years, and their lease expired. And so that's a case where, the lease has expired, and now what? And so we're in the now what stage. So that'll work its way through on its own time. And then there are 2 other cases of other sorts of issues relating to different things. Different things. You all are internet savvy. I don't even need to bother with those. But again, this is the world that I find myself inhabiting at the moment. I found myself at Adyar, and we started to do certain things. One of the reasons we have many problems with some of our structures. Every problem we have with a building, pretty much every problem relates to some problem with water. It's a very humid area. It's an area that has a monsoon that lasts for about a month and a half. So you have a lot of water infiltration and damage to properties. Additionally, you had a concept about nature. There was such a profound respect for the natural world there at Adyar that the idea of cutting the tree, was, to a certain degree, you feel as if you're doing harm to another living being. And that's good, but it can be carried to an extreme. And the extreme is when these trees start to grow onto the buildings, as they do in many places, and start to damage roof lines. Then, at least what I witness here in the Netherlands, is you take an approach of pruning so that the branches are back from the... That was not an approach that was universally embraced. So we said, well, look, we need to prune these trees, and there's some other trees that had grown up in areas where they had not been before. We need to cut out these trees. Simple idea. Until Lily and I had been at Adyar for a couple of months at the time. We're getting ready to go back to the States. I was at the office, doing the last things. And she says, say, Tim, did you read the paper today? I said, no. When I'm over there, I had gotten in the habit of reading like 3 papers because I needed to verse myself on all of the different things going on. Indian sort of thinking about, I learned they have a lot of letters that they use. You'll read a headline, it'll say something like, the RPF attacks the SYC. And then you read the article to find out what this is about, and everybody just knows what those letters are. And you read the article, I have no clue what RPF is. So you have to follow the story for a couple of days before the name actually turns up. So I'd gotten in the habit of reading the paper, but that day, busy. So she says, turn to page 2. And I open it up, and here on a page 2-worthy story is about the 75 old-growth trees that had been cut down on the campus of the Theosophical Society by President Tim Boyd. Yeah, so it's as if I even had the chainsaw, Friday the 13th movie. So anyway, I called the author of the article and said, you're basing this on what? Did you come out, you're saying 75 trees. I went and counted the places that he talked about. It was 21 trees, all of this dimension or more, that had never been there before and had grown up. I said, did you count them? Well, no, I didn't get an opportunity, but we had reliable report. From who? And then he started mumbling. But so this is one thing. Next sort of minor internet phenomenon that I became temporary, I got 15 minutes of fame from. When I came to Adyar, I got there and it was a very interesting phenomenon. We had about 32 cows on the campus. You'd be going anywhere and the cows would be there just grazing. It was a really beautiful sort of pastoral scene. But in the summertime, if you come around these cows, they would get awfully thin. And part of the reason is that we didn't have anybody, our staff is limited. We are not professional cow herders. And so, the cows were not being treated as they should be. But yet we had cows. And so I tried to find out why. Because to people who've been coming over the last, 10, 20 years, they think we've always had cows. We've had bulls. We always had the bullocks to pull the carts with the leaves, and we've always had bullocks to do that sort of work. But we didn't have cows. But what happened was this. At some point, some years ago, a fellow who was at that time general manager thought, this is India. The cow is sacred. We should have that energy here. So he brought a cow. One. He brought one cow, harmless, until I get there a couple of decades later and it's 32 cows that you must feed, that you must have someone from your staff to care for, proper veterinary care, and that's not what we do. So I said, well, look, why don't we do this? It's a massive expense year after year to take care of the cows, and we don't even do it well. Let's send them to a place where they can be cared for, where they'll live out their lives harm-free and be cared for. Sounds like a good idea, And so we did that. We cut the herd in half, sent 16 of them off. So, of course, in the spirit of this idea that no good deed goes unpunished, the next thing I hear is about how the Theosophical Society had sent 16 cows to the slaughterhouse. We didn't even send them. We sold them to the cows. So I thought, okay, this is my world. So anyway, this is just a snapshot of some of the more bothersome aspects. I should say, too, that the person who was very prominent in promoting this story got a photo several months later of the grounds at the Alcott School there, where the grass had grown up. And so he wrote another editorial saying that the Theosophical Society needs to go and get those cattle back so that they could eat this grass. So it's like, come on, I don't bring things back from the dead, according to you. If they were slaughtered, how do I do this? So anyway, what we ended up doing was this. When I got back, I was gone for a while. Over the course of a year, came back, and instead of the 15 we had before, now we had 18 again. And so it's clear this will keep on going. So we said, it's time to take these cattle and send them all to a place where they can be cared for. But this time, I haven't heard any new stories. I don't even follow this stuff, so I don't really know. But this time what we did was we found a place, they call them gaushalas, which, for the sacred cow in India, they're cared for a lifetime. They're treated like little princes or princesses for the entire time that they live, and it's no possibility of anything untoward happening to these. So we sent them there. And so that's been the end of the cow history. But I just say that to some extent, it's a different type of environment, and you find yourself being aware of things differently. And part of it is that when I was here a year ago, I was quite optimistic about a couple of different things in terms of timing. I'm still optimistic about everything. But one of the things that I felt should be happening immediately was that our website and our web presence needed to be live and functional, which it had not been. And in my exuberance, I'm thinking 1 month to 1 year, and it'll be there. So now we're at 1 year and 4 months, it's not there. But I can say that we have been developing this thing, and next month we will have a live website that is not just functional, but we will be continually able to improve. So what I'm going to ask all of you to do is to, when this does happen, to go through it, to see the things that do work, see the things that you feel don't necessarily work, the things that need to be added, and share that with us. Because this is going to be a work in progress for some time, but it's going to be something that will be a benefit because there are a lot of things that are going on. And part of the problem, I think, that has made it possible for us to feel some distance has been the fact that we've largely been unaware. I mean, most of you know that there's a school at the Adyar campus, the Olcott school, secondary school. It's 450 kids there. 450 kids, all of them from very poor background, and the school is operated completely free. And it's a quality education that they get. And that's operated through the Theosophical Society right there every single day. I mean, we know about theosophy, but what about that? And we have a social welfare operation where you have, a couple of components of that. One of which is that you have little children, just above infant age, where you have mothers who have to work, and what do they do with their kids? So we have daycare operation for these kids. We have, within that same social welfare component, we have training largely focused on younger women, training them in certain skills that will make it possible for them to be employable. We have another program that we started within, several months after I got there, where we have partnered with another organization, an organization called Unati. And they do, it used to be a 70-day residential training for kids who don't have a lot of promise in the job market. That basically their future is going to be very severely limited unless there's some other input that comes into their lives. We provide that. And in the course of that, what used to be 70 days, now 50, one of the huge advantages, one of the things that really sets apart someone who is able to provide for a family adequately and someone who is challenged in India is the ability to speak English. It's a huge advantage. Basically, the people who are educated, that's the language of choice. In India, there is no national language. There are 16 major languages, but none of them is the common language of everyone, and 400 total languages. So in this school program, the way it is, any kid that comes into that, on day 1, they are aware that on day 50, when the program ends, they will be employed. Because there are sponsors who are working with this program and who have found that the way that it works, it's something where these kids have come out prepared. And so every term, they present a program, and it's always something that's good. And one of the things that comes across from these kids is the level of confidence that they gained because of their association with this program. And so that has great value. It's not theosophy in the ordinary sense that we look at it, but it's certainly part of our work. That's one of the things that's at this Adyar campus. We have a free medical dispensary right on the campus. We've got 130 people working there. And of those people who, the workers that need medical attention, there are 2 doctors that operate from that, and they pay nothing. Nothing at all. We have an animal dispensary. I mean, there's just a lot of things going on. When we say Adyar, very often we think library, archives, Blavatsky. And it's all of that, but it's also a lot more. So all of these things come together to sort of describe the work that we're trying to do. I thought somebody said something. You make a lot of sounds, don't you? they're all good ones, but I find my attention going to you. One of the things that's going to be, that we're going to be doing, when I was here last year, I think I told you we had 130 people working there, 129. And 1 year ago, of those 129 people who were working, 1 person was not from India. 1. International headquarters of the Theosophical Society, 1 person working for the International Society at its headquarters was not from the country where the place is situated. I felt that was something that it's not correct. As an international organization, there should be some level of international representation in the work. Minimally for the cross-fertilization of thinking and of approaches. So that was something I had thought would grow. Okay? Oh.
Just translate.
Oh, translate, okay. Okay, okay. Cross-fertilization.
Yes.
What is that in Dutch?
Kruisbestuiving.
Say it one more time.
Kruisbestuiving.
I like it better in Dutch. Kruisbestuiving. I like that. So what we have right now, when we were there the last time, which we just left in July, we had 8 people, from 1 to 8, who were from other countries. When we get back there in October, it will be 12. So it's a number that is increasing. It's a group that is growing, will necessarily grow. And there are more who are on the way, because around the world there are people that are now pointing their minds and figuring out their time and their schedule on how they can do something to connect themselves with the work at the International Center. One of the things I have found whenever I travel around the world is something that I encountered in the United States, but now I see it as a worldwide phenomenon or a worldwide fact. The people who have gone and who have had an opportunity to go to the international headquarters, to Adyar, particularly people who have spent some time working there, even small amounts of time. When you find them in their own countries doing what they do, very often they tend to be some of the most devoted sorts of workers in terms of working for this theosophical effort worldwide. Something about being there, on that ground, doing that work, amidst not just such a rich history, but a very rich presence of energy that is there to this day. Annie Besant called Adyar the master's home. Anyone that I know that goes there feels something. You know, it's up to you to determine what that is, but there is something that is alive that's there, and it touches you. Particularly when you're there with the mind that you're trying to touch and expand the effort that was begun there. It has a way of affecting us. So to me, I think it's important to provide any sort of means that we can for people to have that experience. Not to say that they come and stay and live forever at Adyar. That's not the goal. Some people are inclined and able to do that, but that's a few. But to be able to say that you can come to the international headquarters and do some sort of meaningful service has great value. So one of the very first things that we did, and you know, I thank Marja Artema, our international secretary, who is wonderful. You know, she thinks I was just in Finland, and I got a little bit, I had to pull myself back because, you know, I found myself speaking too glowingly of Marja, and she's Finnish. So you don't want to do that, you know? So I had to pull back. But, you know, I think she has done wonderful work. I mean, one of the things that has been very important to me, I'm in a new position, different place. All of this has been a learning experience. Learning about people, about the energies that they bring, about the ways that different people work, about the ways in which we see things overlap. And it's a good thing when you can work with people who share a vision. That's a good thing. And I find that in many things, working with Marja, there is that sort of shared vision of things. So one of the things that she did was, initially when we got there, basically go from department to department across the organization and identify the sorts of work that each of these departments would find useful if somebody came to volunteer. You know, if somebody comes from the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, anywhere, and I can come for a month, what could they do? 2 months, what could they do? Half a year. So that sort of work, background work, has been done. Because there has, you know, in the past there have been people who felt that they didn't get the full experience because they got there and there wasn't maybe a system to plug them in. And so you spend your time there. It's a nice place, but you came there to do something as well. So those sorts of things have been done.
I am one of those people who were actually touched by Adyar. I've been to Adyar in 2013, once at the beginning, and then I toured through India. I came back, I was touched again, so I got the full treatment. But when I was there, I was amazed by the beauty of it. And I think many of you have been there, I don't know how many. Maybe, if I can see someone who has been to Adyar? Well, that's more than half, I think. So that's quite remarkable. So everybody knows, or will know in the future, about how beautiful it all is. Well, I learned some things when I was there. And I didn't know, because I saw this beautiful library building, and as a librarian, I really like libraries, so I had to go there. And that they had so many Sanskrit texts. And that they had all these beautiful biodiversity places. And I've never seen so many colorful birds and little creatures. And also, because I like architecture very much, the Leadbeater chambers, was the first concrete building in India. And of course the beautiful sign saying, "Work for Adyar, home of the masters." I don't know if it was put up there by any vessel. So I was there together with some other young people, and we thought that when you come into the Adyar region, it's the pointer, this area here, for those of you who haven't been there. It's a beautiful green lush area, but on your way there with the cab, you see that Chennai is booming, and also Adyar, on the backside of the beautiful green area, is booming very rapidly. So they're building up all these buildings. And I imagine that I'd seen somewhere a petition back in 2010. And here you have some ideas of what is happening, the high-rises here. And here you see the pollution in the Adyar River estuary. And the bridge, and I think it isn't there anymore, it collapsed. Yeah, the broken bridge. But there was a petition back in 2010, and it was sent by Pedro Oliveira, I think, urging every one of us to sign a petition to prevent something like this being built all across the beach area of Adyar. Imagine if Tim and Lily would stand on the balcony and something like this horrible thing. Fortunately, so far it has been thwarted. I don't know the current status, but it just grows a little seed in your mind. You think, hey, maybe we need not only protect all the beautiful buildings, the Michiel Haas project, which is really very good, but we also need some more general legislation to protect Adyar as a whole. So therefore, we thought, together with Lola from Spain, and with David, who's also from Spain. David is a forest engineer, and Lola knows all about international legal issues. I'm a librarian, so I can look up things. So we joined forces, and we wrote a paper, which you can read at the back of the tables somewhere there. I can also email it to you. The emails will be shown at the end. And we thought maybe we should think of arranging this framework to internally recognize Adyar as a natural and cultural heritage area. And that's why I really like what Tim was saying this morning about inheritance, that we're all aware of this beautiful region, this priceless asset we have. And that it's not just a whole lot of buildings, but that it's actually our heritage. 134 years of philosophy. And then step 2, to look for national and international possibilities, and to work together with people there in Adyar, but also here in the Netherlands or in America or wherever, and to join forces so we can study what could be possible, where can we hook up to. And step 3 will be the application of these rules. And there are several possibilities, but it's all just a study. It's an idea. It's a wild idea. Because right now we have only these 4 monuments. The tree, the beautiful tree who isn't there anymore. The bungalows, and let be the chambers. But there was once an inquiry made and an inventory, and they listed all the buildings in the Adyar and Chennai region, and to see what kind of monuments could be named. And Mr. Suresh, he said all of Adyar could easily qualify as a heritage precinct. So we already have his support. Besides that, everyone who has been to Adyar knows that if the wind comes from the wrong direction, you smell the river. And there are now all sorts of plans being executed to make sure that the river gets better and not so polluted, and they want to clean up things. So that might be an idea. And as again, it's another idea, but just to give you an overview of what might be possible. And I was traveling with Wim. We went to Oroville, and Oroville has a special warm place within the UNESCO. They support the idea of Oroville, and they gained a special status in '68. And maybe it may be a little bit too far-fetched, a World Heritage status, that we will be included with the pyramids and the canals of Amsterdam. But some kind of protection like we have in Europe or in the United States for beautiful monuments or bioreserves would be possible for us. And the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, has all kinds of structures in place, and Adyar as a whole could be deemed as a protected landscape due to beautiful flora and fauna. So the way forward is the formal way, of course, to talk to you, to launch the idea and bring it to the General Council. And to form, again, and look for international people who want to think about this idea as well. And it can happen from here, it can happen from India. We have the internet, so boundaries are no problem. And to make sure that in the future maybe we can get also a more general protection for Adyar as a whole. So not only for the buildings, which will be beautifully restored in the future, but to put it into some kind of perspective. These are email addresses where you can contact us on. And I will leave you with a wonderful quote by Krishnamurti, which you can read for yourself. And I would like to thank you for your attention.
Yeah, obviously, in order to renovate structures, there are going to be costs that are involved. Part of the process that's been going on for the last year, on which McKeel has been working, has been to identify, first of all, the need, which, the need is everywhere. So given that, what is it that becomes the priority? So four actual buildings have been prioritized in this process. They are the most used buildings that we have. The headquarters building, those of you who've seen the photographs with the elephants along the side of the wall, that's that building, which also contains the archives. Raja House, which connects to that. Blavatsky Bungalow, which is where the School of the Wisdom is conducted each year. And then the Leadbeater Chambers, LBC. The one that Jan Maarten was just talking about, the first concrete and steel building in all of the entire subcontinent of India. So those need to be renovated. The first order of business was identifying which buildings are where and what was their condition. That was done. The prioritizing was the next thing that was done. And then thinking in terms of specific repairs and costs. And so all of those things have been done. And so as a result of that, we have a very clear idea of what it is we need to do and how much it is that it will cost. In European or American terms, we're not talking about exorbitant figures, but it's a figure of around $1 million US for these four structures. It breaks down to maybe a little less than $300,000 per structure. So obviously that's money that's not just laying on the ground at Adyar. Or if it is, I haven't found it yet. And I have looked. So there's another component that's going to have to go into this, which is Adyar, in terms of its history for the Theosophical Society, has great value. In terms of its connection with its membership, everybody acknowledges it as being something that has great value. We talk about it as the home of the masters. And so to a certain degree, if all of these things are true, then it's something that needs the support of those of us who find value there. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, just like we support anything that we find has value. And so that's something that we're going to have to do in a couple of different ways. Obviously, this whole project, there's no expectation that we will have the necessary funds to complete this tomorrow. So it's something we have to plan out over a period of years. To first do fundraising related to the total project, while we're also doing other projects in the meantime. Projects such as the archives, the information center, other things. So what we're going to have to do is this. I mean, for my mind, it's something that has to be internationally based. And so we're going to need the participation of the entire network of the Theosophical Society. Basically, what it is providing the opportunity for those who find this thing of value to contribute. The contribution of the membership and of our sections is essential. So that's something that we're going to be presenting this to all of our different sections and providing that opportunity. And so, there are a few ways that we can do that. I think it's something that needs to be consistent across the Theosophical Society worldwide. All right, so it's not presented in one way, one place, another way, another. So that's something that I would like to be able to do worldwide, so that everybody knows what it is that's being done. Everybody knows where it is that this money is going. Everybody knows how it's being used and when. So all of these things become features on our website and in anything that we're doing. Basic sort of transparency that you would expect with anything that you put money into. So that's going to be the way that it's going to be conducted. It's a difficult process in many ways to get money into India. And so the way we intend to set this up, there is already an account that is available here in the Netherlands that is in euros. Because of the penetrability of all of the European states, one place for a euro contribution can work very well. United States, there'll be something else, and then in India. So again, this is something that already in the Netherlands, the scope of the project, its direction, and the way it's going to be operating has already been announced. So here it's no news. But it's something that we're going to have to get similar sorts of materials and things for Italy and Belgium and every place else in the world. So that's, in a nutshell, that's the idea of how we want to move this thing forward. We're thinking in terms of 5 years, so that at the end of 5 years, these projects will have been completed. Basically 3 years to try and get the necessary funds and then initiate the projects. Michiel, you might want to add something to this.
It's okay.
Okay.
Everything what you know you say is very well.
Okay. Okay. John Maarten needs the microphone, I think, Manja.
Ja.
Yes,
Kom maar.
Well, I have a question in an ID, so I'll start with the ID and get to the question later. The ID would be, since we have, we all, when we become a member, we fill in these forms where we list our what we can do, what our profession is. Why do we not work on some way on the internet that people can use their expertise? You just fill in on a new website what you need in Adyar or someplace else, and people can tick the box they like or what they can do. So it's very transparent and everybody knows what needs to be done and they can put their energy into it. And the question is, do we have a press officer for whenever you get a journalist and he wants to call the Theosophical Society? Is that an idea to install a press officer?
It's a wonderful idea. could you volunteer? I mean, I'm not trying to just be silly. Part of the issue at Adyar is probably very similar to the issue here and elsewhere. There are so many things that do need to be done, and you don't have enough hands. You don't have enough people. So everybody that's there that's doing anything is doing minimally 5 things. And something like this is an area that we're going to have to pay some attention to. You know, right now, in terms of media access and in terms of the instant spread of information of any quality, good or completely inferior quality, it spreads instantly. And so you have some people, you know, a couple of people worldwide who are relatively internet savvy, who, you know, are somewhat unscrupulous about culling people's names for mailings. Nobody asks to be on those lists that people get mail from, but who use this in sort of a reverse direction. The problem for me has been this, that, you know, one of the things that comes with this territory is that there are necessarily going to be a lot of false sort of claims and bad information that is spread. You know, I have to look at the degree of the spread, and really, it's not broad. I have developed this way of thinking about it. It takes, first of all, it takes a lot of energy, particularly because in the internet age, it costs someone nothing. 2 minutes on a keyboard and a press of a button, and there's a story. That if you find yourself of a mind that you need to respond to every one of those stories, you won't have enough time in the day. And so the way I say it, and I think there are many people who work around me who can repeat it, my approach to this is this, that you do not have to turn around and look at every dog that barks at you. You know, if I'm trying to walk through the middle of town and I have to stop and look at each dog that's barking, I will never make it to the grocery store. So, obviously there are things that sort of rise to the level of being supremely ridiculous that need to be responded to. And so from time to time we have to do those things, but we have to use our judgment. Also because if you find yourself in that sort of mind that every single thing that comes you react to, ultimately you're taking energy, which is the real currency of all that we do, and you're adding energy to something that doesn't merit it. And so you end up making those sorts of decisions. Do I take my energy and inflate some ridiculous sort of claim by reacting to it, responding to it? And so, you know, you make those sorts of decisions. But one of the things that a more alive sort of web page will permit will be that we will be able to post news of things as it happens. So that in many ways, you won't even have to respond to anything. It's just a part of the way the website works. That, you know, the cows that were here have gone off to the farm. So then you can just take it out of context and twist it any way you want, but it's there. You know, and it's apparent. So that's one of the ways that we'll be using this website. Because, you know, it's not wrong to say that we live in an information age. Information is the very lowest component of knowledge. It's the bricks and the mortar. It becomes structured the way people choose to. So information is one of the things we have to be involved with more so. And we're going to do that. But it would be nice to have someone who could put their attention on that, primarily. At one point, I had thought that Jan Kind was going to be coming down there to be with us. I don't know where Jan is now. But he was going to be coming down to live at Adyar and work at Adyar. That was a possibility. In which case, that's sort of a natural, I mean, he's somebody who's built for that sort of thing. So that would be a very good match. That one didn't pan out, but other things will. Yeah.
It's a bit connecting with Jan, but I just had an idea. I think you need an organization like Doctors Without Vacation or Médecins Sans Frontières, and I would call it TWV, Theosophists Without Vacation. So you can donate money to Adyar, but why don't we donate our time? Let's say instead of going on holiday to Italy, I like Italy.
Who doesn't?
I have to be careful because otherwise I'm on the internet and so on. So I spent 2 weeks of my vacation in Adyar.
Yeah.
And you on your website, you put up tasks which have to be done, and we plug into it. And we make the organization Theosophists Without Vacation, and we go there. You got my 2 weeks?
You know, you have a problem because that was recorded.
You have a problem because you have to give me a job. I will be there.
That's the easier part.
I will knock on your door.
All right. You all heard it, and you're going to this is going on Vimeo, isn't it? It's a very good idea. I mean, this is the sort of thing, you know, these sorts of things bubbling up now, this is what helps me. Yeah. No, it's consistent with that suggestion. TWV.
Any other questions or contributions, creative ideas? Creativity is...
Raphael. You can go down straight down the middle.
I have just one question regarding the Adyar Library and Research Center, because last year it was also a topic of scanning the material and preserving the materials so that they are pretty similar to the archives. I'm just wondering if there has been anything planned or done in that respect.
Yeah. What Raphael is talking about at the Adyar Library Research Center, one of the huge assets we have over 18,000 palm leaf manuscripts. Palm leaf. You know, Tamil primarily, calligraphy on palm leaves of various sorts of, they're about this long, they're anywhere from this long to this long and about this wide. So you just take them. Colonel Alcott was the one who amassed most of these manuscripts. So he's been gone for 100 some odd years. And at the time that he gathered all of these manuscripts, the oldest one that he had gathered was 600 years old at that time. So now 700 plus. So that's a resource. And one of the things about them is that all of those manuscripts have not even been translated. So there are many things in there that are as yet unknown to the general public. It's been a source of work over the years of many of the Indian pundits and swamis who have associated themselves with our library because it's a primary research center for this and have done translations. So that's good, but it's not on a path where those things will be translated anytime soon, 18,000. So, and it is on a path where year by year, day by day, they're degrading. They're cared for, they're in an air-conditioned environment, but just by virtue of the fact that they're another year older, they become more brittle. And some of them are to the point that what you have is you have one opportunity to open it and view it, and then it starts to crumble in your hands. So, as Raphael said, one of the things that is important is that if we're going to preserve this as a resource, it has to go into digital format. And that's something that we've started doing in about the last 4 or 5 months. So we have an actual company that does that. And they've gone in and we did it as a trial. So we have several thousand of pages of that have been done now. And it's something that we're just going to keep on processing. Gradually, you know, over a relatively short time, we'll be able to have all of that in digital format. And so then it'll be something that minimally the images will be preserved. Yeah. And available for researchers.